We're right at 5:30, so I'll call this September 22nd Historic District Commission meeting to order. We'll start with roll call vote. Start over here.
Nate Johnson.
Liz Hamilton.
Marilyn Moix.
Jason Covington.
And then Corey Parks. We'll move to public hearing items for Robinson Historic District, letter A, 1703 Caldwell. Tara?
Thank you. This project is located in the Robinson Historic District. The proposed development is the applicant is seeking after-the-fact approval for a privacy fence, which extends from across the rear yard and towards the front of the house along the side yard being on Ash Street. The applicant replaced an existing chain link fence with a wooden fence. The residence is non-contributing, plain traditional style structure built in 1921. The previous chain link fence was not historic, and there are no visible historic site features that the applicant would need to be retaining and preserving. The standards state that walls or fences taller than 42 inches or that are more than 65% solid should not be constructed in the front yard and or street side yard area of a corner lot. New fences or walls should be constructed of traditional material. Privacy fences should be restricted to the rear and side yard and should be no more than 6 feet in height. The upper 2 feet of privacy fencing should have 50% opacity provided by a wood or iron grid lattice. Privacy fences should be set back from the front facade at least 1/2 the distance between the front and rear walls of the structure. The fence that has been constructed is in a side yard on a corner lot. The chain link fence did not conform to the guidelines. The constructed privacy fence does not conform to the guidelines as it exceeds 42 inches in the side yard on a corner lot and projects beyond 1/2 the distance between the front and rear walls of the structure. The applicant has stated that a privacy fence on the side yard is requested due to the size of the rear yard and the desire for security. Conditions for consideration are the privacy fence shall be set back from the front facade at least 1/2 the distance between the front and rear walls. Chain link, vinyl, plastic, composite, and bare concrete fencing are prohibited. The upper 2 feet of the privacy fence shall have 50% opacity provided by a wooden lattice along Ash Street. And this approval relates to the design of the fence and not its specific location as relates to easements and property lines. The property owner assumes responsibility for constructing fencing in any easements or on adjacent properties where applicable.
Thank you, Tara. Is the applicant here to speak on behalf of this? If you could just state your name and address for us, please.
Sure. My name is Lana Gartner, and I have some handouts for y'all. I am Patrick Moore. I'm his mother, and he works for the UP Railroad, and they would not relieve him of his duties to come here tonight. So I'm speaking on his behalf. And if I call him Seth, I'm sorry, but that's the name I know him by, not by Patrick.
Okay.
Seth is his middle name, so I'm sorry.
Okay.
He lives alone. He's not married. He lives alone in the home at 1703 Caldwell, and he apologizes for not being able to be here to speak on his behalf, and he thanks you for even considering this privacy fence for him. Exhibit A is where I will start. He's taken a lot of pictures, which are copied for you in exhibit form. This first Exhibit A is, these are pictures of the home that he purchased in 2011 when he got out of the Army. And we are all lifelong members or residents of Conway, Arkansas. He knew that updates wouldn't be needed to the home when he purchased it. Number one, the chain link fence, it extended the entire length of Ash Street all the way out to Caldwell, and it was not very pretty. He also knew that the enormous heat and air unit that was on the side of the home would need something to cover it up because it was unsightly. That had been installed by the previous owners. Exhibit B, if you will turn to that exhibit. This is the rental property that borders his backyard. I really don't think I need to say very much about the pictures because it kind of explains why he needs a privacy fence. I received a copy of a letter that was sent, I believe, to you, Mr. Parks, in favor of his fence. I do not know the woman who wrote that letter, but her description of the rental property was, it's a hot mess. And though Seth would tell you that they are good neighbors, there are broken down vehicles in the yard, many utility trailers that are broken down appliances turned sideways. There are 3 or 4 grills sitting in the front yard. And in the tiny backyard are kennels with dogs in them that bark constantly. Exhibit C, that is a beautiful home that is across Ash Street from him. The home faces Caldwell, and as you can see from the photos, and though these owners are about the same age as Seth and work from home, they do not mow their lawn. That picture was taken on the 14th of August of their grass. They had been given numerous written warnings and maybe even a citation. And one of the neighbors went over after Seth took pictures and mowed the lawn. In May, there was a high windstorm, and that's when Seth decided that he needed to have several trees removed from the backyard, a couple of pecan trees, and had the limbs trimmed up further on the trees that were back there providing shade. He had several limbs that fell, and he was concerned that further storms would cause damage to his home, and grass would not grow back there. That cost him about $2,500 to have those trees removed. Exhibit D1, this home is just 1 block south of Seth's on the corner of Robinson and Ash. Is everybody there? It also has a 6-foot privacy fence, which extends along Ash Street the full length of the property, which we measured off at 118 feet in length on Ash Street. Seth's fence is 90 feet on Ash Street. Exhibit D2, this is a Craftsman-style home that was built across the street, across Caldwell from Seth, approximately 10 years ago. They also have a 6-foot privacy fence that begins at the corner of the home and extends to a fence that turns and then goes out to Caldwell Street. It tapers down as it gets to the sidewalk on Caldwell. Exhibit D3 are 2 homes within a 2-block radius of Seth within the historic district, which have fences that start at the corners of the home, and one of them on one side is approximately 10 feet tall. The old chain link fence made it difficult for him to enter the driveway and into his garage, as it was rickety. It had 2 gates. It had to have a post in the middle, a very narrow gate, so he would have to get out and manually open both gates for him to even be able to pull in. This made parking kind of difficult and dangerous because you can see how torn up the yard is on the side there between the fence and the street. And there's a lot, you won't believe it, but there's a lot of traffic running up and down that road. I've witnessed it, so I know how bad it can get. Really made it hard, especially during periods of rain like we had today, because it just became a mushy mess. So his plan is to have all of that fixed and sodded so it looks halfway decent in the downtown area. On July 15th, before the chain link was removed, after coming home from work from the railroad, after midnight, I might add, being still awake, he entered his home and went in. A few minutes later, he heard the gate of the chain link open, and someone came into the back door. He called the police, but the intruder was gone before the police got there. and a few items were taken from his living room. This person was not invited into his home, so it was somewhat frightening to him. Exhibit E is the privacy fence that you're seeing right now, built after this incident. He tore down the old chain link fence and installed a privacy fence with an automatic gate so he can enter the home, access his driveway easily. Now, to my knowledge, there has been no complaints regarding the fence. We did receive a copy of a letter from a woman by the name of Yulia Kirley, I think is her name. I have attached that letter at the very back, and I hope you'll take time to read that before you make your decision. I only wish that I could have printed her pictures, because her pictures of the rental property were much better than the pictures that Seth took. So,
So I believe we received it's these pictures, maybe.
I guess
Yeah.
from a
If it came
Kirley,
with the letter, then
Miss Kirley,
Yeah.
yes. I don't know her, but man, if she's here, I really appreciate her writing this letter, because she describes the properties around his home very well. And please know that Seth is willing to do whatever needs to be done, but he does, I mean, he'll move the fence on back to the middle of that front portion of his house if he needs to. That's not going to be a problem for him. But he does hope that he implores you to consider his safety and his privacy in his backyard. Thank you for your time, and if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them, if I know them.
any questions? Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Anyone else here to speak in favor of this? You'll join us at the podium if you'll just state your name and address for us, please.
As this meeting was today, but my name is William Wallace. I live at 834 Ash Street. I live catty-cornered to Seth's property, and right across the street from the property that Seth has issues with. It's not, it should be a 12-foot fence, what Seth has, because what's across the street from our house goes against all historical rules, probably city rules of more than 3 or 4 vehicles being parked in your yard on the grass, the junk, the trash, the dogs that Yulia has to put up with on her side, what I have to put up with on my side and Seth's side. We're all surrounding this one property, and it's atrocious. So just to support Seth having the fence up, that should be a given. Just drive by. Go to the corner of Ash and Caldwell, drive towards the president's house, the university president who has that fence, the one that's longer and higher than Seth's. A lot of people do things and ask for forgiveness. I'm sorry that Seth is going to have to ask for forgiveness, but it's pretty serious over there. And it affects more than just Seth. It affects our whole neighborhood, the whole historical district, that one house. That's all I got to say.
Thank you for your time. I was trying to think, I was like, wait, Jenny's not here. Anyone else here to speak in favor of it? Okay, seeing none. Anyone here to speak in opposition? Okay, well then I'll bring it back into the commission for discussion.
I think if they brought it back to the back of that part that sticks out, which would be halfway between the front and the back, and maybe did the lattice on the front of that, that would be an improvement. I'm not as concerned about the back and the rest of the side.
Yeah. So if basically looking at the image where the windows
Yeah,
start.
the back of
Yeah.
those 4 windows.
You want the lattice only facing one side or both?
I think as long as it was facing Caldwell would be the Davis house, you know, it doesn't have lattice on the side. It does on the
On
front.
the front, yeah.
I was making sure you weren't trying to say on Ash Street, because that's the view that they're
No.
trying to obstruct with the
No.
HVAC units.
Just Caldwell.
And just point of clarification for the folks that are here or watching online. So we have to be very careful not to set precedents for things as we consider projects. Is very much a case-by-case basis, because how the district was built, you have different homes that are neighboring different homes, and so we try to make sure that everything is congruent to the best of our ability. But that's where sometimes you'll have different style homes that may look like they stand out than others, or in wider driveways in some areas, or wider sidewalks in some areas, or different fences. So just to clarify that for anyone who may not be as privy to that information. Other thoughts or comments? Then hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to that effect, unless Tara's going to make an adjustment.
So for the next motion being entertained, would it be a change to condition number 3? The upper 2 feet of the privacy fence shall have 50% opacity facing Caldwell, provided by a wooden lattice, and then just provided by a wooden lattice striking along Ash Street.
Mhm.
Okay, so someone will need to make a motion to change that condition and then make a motion to approve the project.
I'll make a motion to make the adjustment to the third condition that the lattice is only along Caldwell Street, or however you want to.
Okay. And that does that address all the conditions that would be modified by this adjustment? Okay. Thank you for holding us accountable. Helps to have staff. All right, well,
Go all the way back past the 4 windows or in the middle?
To the back of the 4 windows, right at the back corner of that wall. Well, the door's on the back wall, isn't it?
yeah.
So it'd be on there, the door would still be in the backyard.
You have a question?
So,
Who's got a
well, hold on. I would like for us, since we brought it back in the commission, just to do something with the motion that was made, and then figure out how to navigate the additional questions that might be had. Is that fair for y'all? So there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second of said motion?
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Now we can discuss, and maybe and I'm trying to pull out my Parley Pro rules here, but maybe we'll suspend the rules for a second to entertain a question before we vote on this. So, sir, if you'd ask your question of the commission, please, but if you'll come to the microphone, just because we have different levels of hearing ability.
The only reason I'm bringing up anything is because those 4 windows, right in the middle of them is an air conditioning unit. I'm not sure where you want to cut it off, whether it be like right in the middle, but I
No,
think
that's not where I see the.
you know,
It looks like the
air conditioner's
it's on the
big window.
corner. Yeah.
oh, so you'll encompass that by using the middle of those 4 windows?
So what's been proposed is, so you see those 4 windows that are on the front closest to Caldwell?
Right.
It would be moving, yes. Oh, cursor's perfect. I wish I had a clicker or a pointer.
Okay.
But yes, so it would be there. And then turn in from there, and then you'd have the opacity on the front part, but then not on the part that is on Ash. Is that clear for the applicant representative? Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, then, if there's no other questions, bring it back into the commission, and then take a vote on the motion and the second. All in favor? Any opposed? All right, that passes. And so what I would just make sure of, ma'am, is if the applicant, your son, Patrick or Seth, would be sure to work with staff to make sure he fully understands the what's been laid out. And Tara is going to be the best point of contact for that.
Yeah, so I'll reach out with the certificate of appropriateness, which is a sheet that'll have these conditions that was just voted on today. And then if there's any questions, just reach out.
We didn't do the.
Nope, we didn't.
I was going to remind you.
Just ready to get down to business.
Do the back.
All right, we'll backtrack just a little bit. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes if there's no modifications.
Motion to approve minutes.
Second the motion.
Okay, motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? That passes. All right, now we'll get back on track with public hearing items for the Old Conway Design Overlay District, first of which would be letter A, 346 Ash Street.
Thank you. This property is zoned R2A in the suburban district of the Old Conway overlay. This is actually a project was approved on February 24th, 2025 for a single-family residence and a detached garage. The applicant would like to convert the garage approval into a detached bedroom approval, and this changes the exterior. The previously approved exterior, which was a garage door, is now going to be a door and a window, requiring HDC review and approval. So as this was already approved, the location, the size was approved in February. It meets all of the setback spacing, tree preservation requirements that are standard in the review in a suburban zone. And the conversion of the garage to a living area increases the complexity of form, as the garage door will be replaced by a window and door, as well as the inclusion of a window on the rear facade. So conditions for consideration are that the applicant must obtain all applicable building permits. There shall be one tree per every 30 feet of frontage. Lighting shall be downward and inward toward the property, and HVAC equipment shall be screened from public view.
Thank you very much. Is the applicant here to speak on behalf of it? If you'll just state your name and address for us, please.
Roberto Hernandez, 346 Ash Street. So, what do I need to do?
Well, just any questions or comments that I know that you were here not that long ago.
Yeah, no
and
questions,
so any
just the house got under contract, and that's why we decided to now make it into a living space for their grandkids, future pool house, so that's kind of the situation now.
any questions for the applicant?
And everything will look exactly like the house too. I mean, same brick, skirt, and hardy siding, so everything will, same color. So we're trying to keep everything the same, right?
Yeah, it's basically just repurposing.
tree-
Instead of a garage, you're gonna have
Yeah.
livable
Trees are
space.
still where they're at. Nothing's gonna change, I mean, because it's the same size and everything.
Yep.
Yes.
It's like you're pretty far along from the images,
Yeah.
so close. The only thing I noticed that's missing from this little bitty picture is like the little awning that goes over the front door. Is that still planned?
Yes, we held off because the guy kept going, and I was like, don't go anymore, don't stop, we gotta get this, approved first, and they just kept going, but yeah, it'll come up. That's how they.
Um.
They're gonna look like that.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Anyone else here to speak in favor of this? You'll join us at the podium, and if you'll just state your name and address for us, please.
I'm Misty Barvel. I'm the principal broker and owner of MVP Real Estate. 304 Southampton Drive, Conway, Arkansas is my address. And the buyer is actually here as well. So yes, it is going to be used as a future pool house and just a place for her family to stay when they come to visit.
Thank you. Anyone else here to speak in favor of? Anyone here to speak against? All right, seeing none, we'll bring it back into the commission for discussion. Thoughts, questions? No?
Well, I appreciate that they're investing in downtown and they, looks like they've built a cute little house that's going to only increase the value of neighborhood properties. And I think if this works for your family, then I think that's great. And I appreciate your investment in downtown. So
I echo that. Well, then I would entertain a motion to accept the recommendations from staff.
I will make the motion to accept the recommendations by staff.
Second.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. So same thing as February. Tara will follow up with a certificate of appropriateness, and then if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. We'll now move to public hearing item under Old Conway Design Overlay District, letter B, 2125 Duncan. I was worried for a second. I was like, I don't see anyone else. Is that? Okay. We'll give it just a second. So for the sake of time, what I would like to do is just move it to the end of this to give them a little bit more time, or we can table it to the next meeting, whichever y'all are most comfortable with.
Just to confirm, the applicant for 2125 Duncan is not in attendance. I'm not.
Okay. So for now, maybe let's just table it, and then if they are here before the end of our meeting, we can reconsider it just to save them that potential time, if that's okay with y'all. Okay. We'll now move to 1145 Lincoln Street then.
(1145) Lincoln Street is located in the transition, with a transition zone in the northeast Old Conway.
Yeah, hold on, sorry.
I'm going to,
Yeah.
I have to spectate.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, yes. So just point of clarification, Liz has a potential conflict of interest because her company, although she's not the applicant or authorized agent for this project, her company is, and so she's avoiding a potential or perceived conflict of interest.
Okay. This project at 1145 Lincoln Street is in the transition zone of the Northeast Old Conway Area Specific Plan, as well as the transition zone of the Old Conway Overlay District. In the transition zone, it is up to the Conway Historic District Commission to determine whether suburban zone standards or transition zone standards apply to the specific development, basing their determination upon the individual project, the location, and the desired neighborhood character. The site is a multi-acre, multi-purpose campus used by Napolz Construction. The proposed development consists of the demolition of one structure and construction of a new 22,150 square foot equipment shop building. The development will front Mill Street and Lincoln Street. This is phase 2 of a multi-phase project, and the site is currently in the plating review process, which is having a map recorded with the county with this new project area, lot area, excuse me. The applicant is showing a 0-foot setback on the front and secondary front, so on Mill and Lincoln Street. In the transition zone, an 8-foot side yard setback is the requirement. However, without setting precedents, the commission does have the discretion to allow a 0-foot front setback in accordance with the urban zone standard. So as I mentioned, there's the transition zone that allows some discretion on the part of the commission when it comes to whether urban or suburban standards apply, as well as the commission has the discretion to adjust setbacks without setting precedents. The height conforms. The total lot coverage is unclear as only a portion of the lot is shown on the submitted site plan. As I said, this is a multi-phase, multi-acre site. So prior to issuance of a certificate of appropriateness, it'll be important for us to see just to ensure that it does meet the lot coverage requirement, which is 80%. This is something that is also checked in another planning review, which is site development review. The proposal is showing a 5-foot sidewalk. Trees. The applicant has shown 3 trees at the corner of Mill Street and Lincoln Street. The requirement in the transition zone is for there to be a tree planted at a ratio 1 tree per every 30 feet. Per this requirement, there should be 9 to 10 trees planted along Mill Street and 8 to 9 trees planted along Lincoln Street. They could be grouped, but at this point in time, the applicant is only proposing those 3 at the corner, which does not meet the requirement. The applicant proposes to continue the use of a vinyl fence along Mill Street up to the proposed building, and a vinyl fence along Mill Street was approved under the first phase of this project by the Historic District Commission. In the transition zone, on blocks without alleys, access points should be minimized to no more than 1 per block. Along Lincoln Street, the applicant is proposing a driveway entrance that is less than 20 feet from an existing driveway entrance. The applicant has stated that they would be gating off the existing access, and it would only be used when needed for trucks to enter and exit. It wouldn't be continuously open. The staff would support a wider driveway if they would like to merge those into one much larger curb cut instead of 2 24-foot ones. They could have a 40-foot. Staff could support that if the commission would also be in agreement. The applicant, they're meeting parking requirements, and as stated, they've indicated 3 trees along the corner of Mill and Lincoln Street. For landscaping, the commission may consider deferring some landscaping requirements to the site development review portion as well. No dumpster is shown. That'll also be reviewed during site development review if that is something that the applicant would like to consider and will need to meet Department of Sanitation standards. The utility equipment is not detailed on the submitted plans, but will need to conform. The requirements for materials and detailing for facade articulation are that facade shall be broken down into 20 to 30-foot modules or bays. Large unarticulated walls are discouraged and shall have either a window or a functional public access at least every 10 feet. Building corners which face an intersection should strive for a high level of articulation. Unique corner treatments are encouraged. A minimum of 2/3 of the first story shall be windows. First story windows shall be 3 feet above ground level of each upper story shall be windows. This is an urban development that is facing a residential area as well as a cemetery. The Mill Street facade has no openings and minimal articulation. The Lincoln Street elevation has a total of 10 windows along approximately 190 feet of frontage. There are brick columns which break along Lincoln Street facade, which break down the facade into modules. The building corner which faced the intersection of Mill and Lincoln does not have a high level of articulation. Additional windows and articulation along street frontages should be considered to meet the design standards. The material percentage breakdown was not provided. However, it does appear that metal appears to have more than 20% metal wall panels on each facade, and the remaining materials are windows and brick veneer columns and CMU skirting. Additional windows and material usage would help bring the project into conformance with both the materials as well as facade articulation. There are no building entries proposed along the street frontages, and there are no overhead covers proposed. No lighting was shown, but it'll need to conform to the site development review standards. Conditions for consideration are that the applicant must obtain all applicable building permits. Development shall undergo site development review, SDR, in accordance with Article 10. Sidewalks shall be constructed in right-of-way in accordance with Department of Transportation standard details. Prior to issuance of certificate of appropriateness, the applicant shall submit for review by planning staff a site plan and elevation showing structures built to appropriate setbacks, and unless commission allows for the 0-foot setback. Additional landscaping in the form of trees or shrubs planted along street frontages, material percentage breakdown, lot coverage tabulation for the entire lot, additional windows and window types on street-facing elevations, the height of the proposed structure shown on the elevations, additional articulation of materials and wall breaks on street-facing elevations. All signage shall comply with the Old Conway guidelines and the regulations of the Conway Sign Code. And utility equipment shall be placed in a manner to minimize its visibility from the street and screened.
Thank you. Joanna? If you'll just state your name and address for us, please.
Joanna Napoltz, 1109 Main Street, and I apologize in advance. This building is very unique to the downtown, or what we believe the downtown requirements. Typically, a downtown building in an urban zone is an office or a retail shop that needs a lot of windows and a lot of decoration. But this building is kind of towards the back of campus, and it's a shop building, so it's mostly mechanics and storage of their equipment. With it being, this is not a building that will be open to the public. It is mostly just for their own crews to come in and equipment to be worked on. So we purposely did not put any doors or anything on the outside perimeter because we don't want people wandering in. We don't want people to try to come in and check it out. It is, only the people that know that, even signage we will keep to a minimum, because anyone that is going there, we want to know, they need to know where they're going. They know where they're going. On the outside of the building, we did try to highlight the corner, but we did it with the landscaping. And also we set that corner back because of sight lines. So people turning from Lincoln to Mill Street. So we did try to do something and decorate that corner a little bit more, just not a traditional entry like you would see in a downtown building. So it's more trying to dress it up other ways. The building itself does face a cemetery across Lincoln Street and then residential across Mill Street. However, primarily everything to the south and east are industrial buildings that are primarily metal panels. The building directly to the south, the existing equipment shop building, is a full metal panel building with no windows, and it has served them very well. There has been a little bit of security issues along Lincoln Street. There's some parking on that side right now, and stuff has been stolen out of the back of the trucks. And so we were trying to put all of the parking towards the interior campus and secure it a little bit better, which is why we pushed the building all the way up to the property lines. There is also very limited sight and maneuverability in the interior campus because of the large equipment. Equipment keeps getting larger and larger every year. And so we were really trying to maintain the turning radiuses and the equipment storage behind secure areas as much as possible, which is where the zero lot line came from. Let's see, with the existing building being metal buildings, we did notice a couple more recent projects that have gone on in the area. The Landmark CPA remodel is also primarily metal with some masonry access and very little landscaping. And then Salter's building on Factory across Harkrider is primarily metal with a few brick pilasters that kind of define the bays. All of the material, we are going to try to match the brick of the new office building. We kind of put all of our fun, pretty stuff in the office building. This is more of a utilitarian building that we don't want to call attention to, and we don't want people coming in too much. I'm trying to think of what else. Oh, the lot coverage for this lot, we're at 55%. Questions?
So Joanna, I remember, it's been a little while, but I know in the last conversation there were some creativity creative options that were proposed on landscaping. So for instance, I remember some level of conversation about doing groupings within the islands and doing some of that. So to the questions on the proposed number of trees versus maybe what is required, can you kind of
Yes.
speak to?
For sure. With the zero lot line, we would love to put some more landscaping along the right-of-way along Lincoln and Mill. However, we need to work with Conway Corp and the street department to see what all utilities are underneath and what all would be allowed in that
Okay.
area. So yes, we're willing to put more in along the street. It's just what all can, whether it be shrubs or something
Yeah.
not.
Something less invasive?
Yes.
Okay. And then I know we also had a conversation, and I may be blurring the lines here a little bit, but about driveway access. Because
Yes.
I know that there was a call out on the 24-foot wide versus 40-foot wide. Is there some
Yes, so
maneuvering that can
we-
be done there?
Yes, for sure. We looked at that. There is that existing drainage inlet that is kind of right in between the two that we were trying to maintain and not get into that because there is a drainage easement and line that goes in between those two buildings.
Okay.
And so we were trying to maintain that. Now, we could concrete it all. We just didn't want to get into the drainage structure to lower it.
Okay. And then fencing, I know that we talked about this last time, and I think Tara pointed out in her comments, but just the reason for us approving previously that type of fencing was because of the use and how it's different than the other types of use and how cost prohibitive it would be because of the linear footage that you were going to have for this, et cetera.
Yes, and the visibility.
Yeah.
We don't want people to be able to see
Mhm.
equipment's not that pretty to some
Yeah.
people. And then also security. We don't want people walking through campus. It could get dangerous.
Those were the kind of the notes and questions that I wanted to make sure that we addressed for the rest of the commission. What thoughts do y'all have?
I guess I got lost. Where would the 40-foot wide driveway be?
It would be, see the existing to the remain, there's the concrete. It would be from that curb inlet all the way to our new curb inlet. So it would span our property, or our new property line.
The cursor, where's that on the cursor?
Yeah, so, yeah, that's in the middle, that would be in the middle of the new drive, so.
Okay, so you would have the inlet in the middle of the
Yeah,
drive.
and so, yeah, we could
Okay.
leave it there, but I think it would be safer to just leave that little bit of landscaping. Put a tree or put a
Yeah.
shrub in there.
I think my only issues may be if they don't do the trees along the roadway, everyone that comes in here is not going to want to put trees along the
Yeah.
roadway. I'm fine with the
That's it.
rest of it.
That's a fair question. Do y'all have the ability on other parts of the campus
Yeah, so that's
to?
what we tried to go above and beyond on the front side, and we have
Yeah.
highly decorated it. And there's a lot of interior trees on it over there as well, and along that perimeter.
Because I think that, I mean, I appreciate you pointed out the uniqueness of this because of the office footprint, but then also the kind of having a one-stop location for the company. And the size of the site and all of that kind of comes into play here. So it makes it a little bit more challenging to think of it as,
That building.
yes,
Accessory
because
building in the
although
back,
this is the
yes.
one that we're considering right now, it's part of a bigger phased approach. So maybe if we were to have, and I don't know how we would articulate this in the conditions or if we would, but just some ability to make note on if the three, I think it's three, if the 3 trees were allowed and with the hope that additional landscaping can be added in the right of way, but if it's not, that was taken into consideration because if it's a large scale project, how does that sit with you, Tara?
I'm thinking about how that could be written as a condition.
Yeah.
Just for my clarification, can you speak to, again, why it has to be at the 0 feet and why the building cannot be 8 feet with landscaping between the sidewalk and the building in that 8 feet setback?
For Sure, yes, that came from the need to get as much square footage of laydown and maneuverability space between the existing vinyl fence and the new building. Some of the cranes that they're bringing in, it will be hard to, as it is, to get in there into each of the bays. And so it was just trying to maintain as much space as possible.
Okay.
I think Charlie might be able to
Oh.
speak to that as well.
Okay. Mr. Charlie, would you like to add some additional context? And if you'll just state your name and address for us, please.
Charlie Nabholz, 4630 Sawgrass Cove, and I am Chairman Emeritus of the Nabholz Company. And the emeritus title is sort of a, doesn't really mean a whole lot. Somebody asked me one time, what does that mean? I said, well, I don't know what it means, but I think it means they don't need me anymore, but I am still working. And I represent the company, and I do have a long history with the company, and I'd like to answer the one question about we really need as much space as we can possibly get, because we, as Joanna said, we have some backhoes and cranes that come in and out, and we've talked a long time about whether or not to move the equipment completely away from the site, but we wanted to keep everything together. Historically, we've been there for, well, in this site over 50 years, but in the total site over 70 years, and we need that extra space as zero setback in order to accommodate our equipment going in and out. So I think the building's going to look great, and we also would like to just reemphasize for security reasons, we'd like to eliminate the windows on the Lincoln Street side. We have had some situations where trucks have been broken into, and of course we'll try to improve the lighting, but having no windows would certainly be a detriment to anybody that might want to break in. If they can't see what's inside, they won't be tempted to break in. And so as far as the landscaping is concerned, I'm sure we'd plant as many trees as we could in the right of way. We are, as most of you know, we're doing the main office building on Harkrider Street, and we're going to try to really do a lot of heavy landscaping there to accommodate the overall development of that block. And so having this equipment building here, if you permit us to build it on the property line, it would make it work for us economically to allow us to get all of our equipment in and out and be safe in the process. So obviously I'm for this. Any questions for me?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone here to speak? Anyone else here to speak in favor of this? Seeing none. Anyone here to speak against? Okay, then I'll bring it back into the commission for discussion.
I don't have an issue with the zero lot lines. You backed up to a cemetery, you're never gonna be retail on that side or something, so. Be grown up or things back there if you had extra space, so.
I think Naples always tries to do what's right for Conway, and I don't have a problem with any of it. I think they're trying to do the best they can and to be safe.
I agree.
So just maybe one point of clarification for Mr. Charlie and Joanna, was the desire to have no windows on that east elevation? Oh, as presented, okay. Okay. What do you need from us on adjustments to the conditions as we've discussed so far?
So what we would need to do is for condition number 4, we can strike bullet point number 1, since the or it could be changed to the commission allows a 0-foot setback on primary and secondary street.
I would say to accommodate the unique use of this property. So maybe something to the effect of commission allows a 0-foot setback to accommodate unique use of this structure, given the district, or how many words needs to be in there, but
And then it would also, based upon the discussion I heard from the commission, striking bullet point number 5 for condition number 4, which was additional windows and window types on street-facing elevations. And the last bullet, additional articulation of materials and wall breaks on street-facing elevations. And in order to, since this project does need to go through site development review as well, and in site development review, planning staff will look at landscaping. And if they do not meet the landscaping requirements of site development review, they would need exceptions. However, our policy is if someone has a certificate of appropriateness that specifically calls out something like landscaping and what is permitted, or the fencing type, et cetera, that we would then defer to the conditions of approval. So if the commission would like to be very specific about the landscaping, then that would be for the bullet point number 2. Additional, so we would just have it, additional landscaping in the form of trees or shrubs planted along street frontages and then in right-of-way as considered appropriate by Conway Corp and Department of Transportation. And then something to the effect of this would supersede site development review requirements, to make that very clear.
those updated conditions sound in line with our discussion?
I think so.
And then Tara, just for clarification, so given the scale of this project, will it take into consideration the whole project, or is it just kind of as it goes?
We look at what they submit.
Submit, okay.
So right now, they've already gone through you can see the construction's already
construction's
going on for the phase 1.
Yeah.
So if they, for phase 3 want to come and it's the rest of the site, then that's what we look at HTC, and that's what we look at in site development review.
I just didn't know if for whatever reason Conway Corp or Transportation says no trees in the right of way, if something couldn't be done to adjust that. But I'm assuming that with this language, that would be addressed in SDR.
So during the SDR, if they propose any sort of like shrubbery or trees in the right of way, and then Transportation or Conway Corp says that cannot be done, then based upon the way this is written, then they would just be required to do those 3 trees.
Okay. Well then, question or comment?
So since I see your point, I think that would be
Yeah.
clear.
Well, but the way that I read that one, it was just based off of your presentation of it appears to meet the requirements, but without knowing the breakdown. Was that the intent of this?
No, so it was just to see what the materials are, but because the materials do not actually appear to meet the requirements, then I think what the applicant is concerned about is then in site development review, we look at it and say, wait, these don't meet the requirements. Yeah. And then it kind of goes into a back and forth. Well, HTC approved it. Well, did they if we don't have that? So I think that, just as I said with the landscaping, so that their HTC can kind of cover what the materials that are being allowed, since that is the purpose of HDC is to make that clear, that the specific material percentages are required in site development review. The commission approves the submitted site plan and elevations. So that way we know the numbers,
Yeah.
but that what's been approved, if that's what the commission, if the commission is looking at these elevations and saying that this is what we approve, then we can be clear
Yeah.
about that in that bullet point.
I mean, to me, this looks in line with some of the other industrial type projects that we've improved downtown. But it's hard to know without the percentage. But if it was constructed, I mean, I'm just one voice here, but, and so I'll turn it to the rest of the folks on the commission, but looking at how the different materials are coming into play on this drawing, the elevations that we have in front of us, then it looks to be what you would expect.
Yes.
So, I mean, I don't know if it's as simple as material percentage approved as presented, or because I know we had the one on, what street is, it's not Front, it's, oh, is it Parkway?
Mhm.
And I know that one, that material conversation was more so based on the fencing, I think, than the actual building, but. So if something as simple as I just said was included in the conditions, does that give you what you need later down the road, so it's not a matter of confusion? Or does it need to be more pointed?
Since there isn't an actual percentage shown on these elevations, it would need to be something a little bit more specific that the materials as shown on the elevations
Okay,
are approved.
okay. Unless, Joanna, do you have those percentages right now? Okay. Yeah,
And it would need to be removed from condition number 4, since that has to do with prior to issuance of a certificate of appropriateness. And so it'd be striking the third bullet and then adding a condition number 7, stating that materials as shown on the elevations are approved by commission.
all right, so how about this? Condition 7, materials as shown on the 922 elevations are approved by the commission. I think I said this at the previous meeting, but this one, unique projects like this require a little bit more workshopping for us because it's not a standard project like you would have in a residential or just an office building or retail building type project. Does that address all of the? Okay. Any other questions or thoughts from the commission before we entertain a motion? Okay. Well, in that, I'll entertain a motion with the amended conditions as we've discussed.
Motion to approve.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second the motion.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Thank y'all. Thank you, sir. Okay. Very good. So if you'll wait for us just a second, we're going to let one of our other commissioners join us back up here and then have a presentation from Tara on the application, and then we'll invite you to the microphone. So we'll now hear 2125 Duncan.
At 2125 Duncan Street, it is located in the one-family residential district of the Old Conway Suburban District. The applicant is proposing to construct a new single-family residence with front and rear porches and an attached garage, also proposed as a driveway and a concrete pad. The style of the proposed residence is reflective of a ranch house with craftsman elements. So based upon the site plan, the average front setback for the area is 25 feet based upon 5 homes on the same block. And then in the suburban zone, front setbacks are required to be in conformance basically with the average of the 5 homes, or the majority of homes, excuse me, in the area. And the applicant is proposing a front setback of 39 feet. And in order to be within 85% and 115% of the average front setback, the house will need to have a setback between 21 feet and 28 feet to be in conformance. The proposal appears to be in conformance with the side yard setbacks and the rear setbacks. However, the site plan dimensions do not seem to be accurate. This property was recently replatted, and the site plan that we have appears to be the entire site before the replatting, just based on the dimensions. And so planning staff does know that a house can fit on this lot because it was replatted. So we just need to see those accurate site plans, and then we can confirm that they do in fact meet those side yard setbacks. It is in conformance with spacing, lot coverage. The garage is being placed at the side of the structure along the back half, which is in conformance with the guidelines. They will need to install a 5-foot sidewalk with a 7-foot green space, if possible, but at least have the 5-foot sidewalk with the maximum amount of green space that is feasible. The approximate average square footage of structures on the block is 1,600 square feet, and the applicant is proposing a 1,865 square foot structure. It is in conformance with height, width, directional expression. For facade, wall area, rhythm, the front elevation meets this criteria, especially as it pertains to having 25 to 40% of the front facade being windows. The western elevation would benefit from 1 additional window where there appears to be a bedroom. Let's see. The porches are in conformance, especially as it pertains to details and depth. The property is in conformance when it comes to the materials and roofing. And so conditions for consideration are that the applicant must obtain all applicable building permits. 1 tree shall be planted. It can be an understory tree if underneath the power line, a canopied tree if away from a power line. The driveway shall be concrete pavers or permeable paving. A 5-foot sidewalk with green space is required. Lighting shall be downward and inward toward the property. HVAC equipment shall be screened from public view. And prior to issuance of a certificate of appropriateness, the applicant will need to submit to planning staff a site plan and elevations showing the following: the accurate parcel dimensions, the building in conformance with setbacks, driveway material and dimensions, a 5-foot sidewalk with green space, and 1 additional window on the western elevation.
Thank you so much. If the applicant could join us at the podium and just state your name and address for us, please.
I'm very sorry I missed this appointment. My name is Ankur Patel. Address is 816 East Oak Street, Conway. We are building this new construction in Conway Historic District. This is my number 3 new construction in the same area. Hoping to get it passed.
Any questions based on what Tara presented?
Not so far.
Okay.
My contractor, Lance Massey, has been in touch, so
Okay.
he just
So-
called me. We were late.
So for instance, on the setbacks, it seems like to accommodate the front setback, it would need to come forward 11 to 18 feet. If my math is correct, I could be off on that, but it needs to come closer to the street. And so I wanted to make sure to call out that specific setback.
Okay.
Questions for the applicant? And besides the setbacks, to me, everything looked pretty straightforward.
I was a little bit confused. You said it was replatted to divide this one into 2 lots?
Yes,
So we have purchased the house 2127 Duncan, which is still there, and we just replatted, and so we have this. So house, I think if you look at left hand side is still there. 2127 Duncan.
So your comment was that it looks like, or are we fitting on that, on the yellow lot, or are we not? That's what we're asking.
Yeah, so it should fit on the yellow lot. I just need to confirm the setbacks. It's just that the parcel dimension was for both lots.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Okay.
Basically, we just need a site plan that shows that it fits on,
If it's on a lot,
without
yes.
tearing down the other house,
Yeah,
or
gotcha.
building on top of it.
Other questions or comments for the applicant?
Wanted them to add a window on the,
No, I was talking, I know, yeah, you're fine. That's the rear. Which one is the, let's see, that's the front. So it's the one that's on, where the garage is, the L portion. If the commission, no. Like if you're on the driveway to the left. So if I was standing in the driveway and I would look left. There it is.
Oh, there.
Mm-hmm.
that one little window close to the garage is in a bedroom, and then there's bathrooms and utilities and things and closets, and then another bedroom here. So you're wanting another window on the corner?
On that bedroom?
For consideration.
You understand what she's?
Yeah,
Okay.
so I guess you guys will give us the changes.
Well, when we're just discussing right now, so is there any concern with adding the additional window?
You put the cursor where you want in the window.
Yeah.
Closer to the
look.
front. Yeah, because I do believe, yeah, there's the utility in the bathroom in the middle. Right.
Yeah, so it looks like it would be maybe living or bedroom?
Yeah, that's it.
Highway.
Yeah, so it'd have to be on the front.
Just didn't know what.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
do
like
you
if
need to
that's
be
the
on-
laundry.
So do
Yeah, we can do that in a laundry.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I would say maybe for the purpose of today, if you're fine with exploring adding an additional window, assuming the commission goes forward with the conditions as presented, then maybe just work with the contractor
Yeah.
and decide where it would be most appropriate for the end user of the home, but then also for a construction standpoint would be my recommendation.
Okay.
Because looking at the drawing, it looks like the front corner, basically how it is on that back corner makes sense, but I don't know. I'm not an architect or an engineer.
We are still keeping that window by the garage.
Yes.
Okay.
So if they bring back their site plan with the dimensions and they don't have room for the setbacks, would they have to come back here to get approval for that?
If it would change the design. So if it's something where they just shrunk the house or moved it forward or backwards, a little to the left, a little, that would not require it. But if it did end up changing the design, it would require HDC review.
Well, if they still had the same design, but they'd have to shrink the setbacks to make that fit, would they have to come get approval or not?
Okay. Good question. Any other questions for the applicant? Okay. I'll just,
So just about the setback, like he said, if we don't change the design, it's still good. Okay.
no material design to it, and not material from the sense of like what you're using, but like how it's laid out.
Yes.
Yeah.
If when you bring the new site plan, you have their setbacks.
Okay.
So how much, given the next item that we'll discuss, how much flexibility could we give to allow for, like, say there is a material change that has to be made to where they don't have to wait another 30 days? Like what bandwidth do we have to give the staff the ability to move forward with the spirit of this residential development.
When you say material, do you mean literally materials?
No,
Oh,
I
okay.
mean, I mean substantial, sorry.
Okay, yeah.
So for instance,
Mm-hmm.
like if, oh man, I'm not even gonna pretend to try to say how this could be laid out, but if it was narrower
Mm-hmm.
to accommodate the site, like I'm just trying to avoid a situation where we know that there could be a challenge, but hopefully there's not, to where they don't have to do the mailings, do the
Mhm.
meeting, do all of that again, but still protect the spirit of the district.
If I may,
Yes, professional.
just all the opinions. If something had to change in your plan to accommodate the reduced footprint of the property, I would say, and maybe suggest, that the primary elevation being the front porch and the two windows would need to remain as submitted and approved by the HDC tonight. If we had to skinny anything up, I would ask that it be on a secondary elevation or element like the garage, for example. You have two garage doors, which are going to be 10 foot, 9 foot, 10 foot each, plus that little space between it, plus that people door, which is lovely. However, by making it one 18-foot garage door and maybe taking the people door and putting it on the side, you could pick up a couple of feet if need be. But the idea being that you wouldn't automatically scrap the porch and now you have like a little bitty pocket porch, and like the main elevation of the house as designed and submitted and approved is given priority, and secondary elements would be revised, and that can happen at staff level. Just a suggestion.
In your non-professional, professional opinion.
In my, yes, very poorly stated professional opinion. Yes, I apologize.
No, that was good. You said all the things that I hope to be able to say. So does that make sense? Because again, we're trying to make sure that
You don't have to do
you don't have to come back to us for something that we know could be a potential problem, if possible.
So it would, what I'm hearing is for consideration, an additional condition, condition number 8, stating that the commission approves the primary, could you say that again?
Primary elevation.
The primary, you're
Said
ready?
primary
Okay,
elevation.
Let me get it out before you like write it down.
Okay.
So the primary elevation elements will be maintained. The primary aesthetic elements, primary aesthetic elements will be maintained, and secondary elements can be adjusted slightly to accommodate reduced setbacks if needed.
And then, for example, a single garage versus a two-door garage.
I'm going to give examples, but if that is what you want.
Well, I'm just trying to think again, because
I'm just throwing it out there because I feel like it's an easy thing to
Yeah.
fix.
So,
Yes.
how many feet we are off
we
on
don't
setbacks?
we don't know.
Well, so just measuring, I believe it was 60 feet is what it's shown as, and then it's a 60-foot wide lot. So, and you can have 6 feet on each side or your side yard setback, so you're 12 feet off, basically. So you're gonna have to have,
12 feet.
just based on it, like, that's the estimate, but that's probably,
napkin math.
yeah, but that's probably what you're looking at.
It might be more than your garage.
Oh.
But the house needs to reduce by 12 feet. Is that what your estimate is? And we would defer to your designers and your architects who are doing this. They should be able to do that for you. But I think just making sure that you get the property lines appropriately shown on the site plan, and then all required setbacks, which you said the required setbacks were shown correctly. They were just too wide.
Mm-hmm.
Each lot is a 60 feet wide. So start with 60 feet and then come back with your setbacks, and that's your buildable area between those.
Depth of that. Can't tell from this
The depth of the house.
of the lot and the house. I can't read it on there. It just seems like there's some wiggle room on the depth of it.
Oh, that's not the right one. Here, I'm just gonna measure.
The one day I don't bring my laptop in.
120.
And Tara, I know that we can't take action electronically, but I think that it would be good for us, given kind of the back and forth that we had for this, assuming what we think to be true is, which this is 12 foot too wide, if that could just be shared once they have gone through the process, just from an information standpoint, is that okay? Like what is actually submitted that is conforming?
That, I believe that would constitute like a meeting if I was to share that. But I could show it like after it's been approved
Okay,
as like a,
okay.
in the appendix. Otherwise, if the commission would like to see it again, then it would need to be tabled.
I was trying to avoid that.
Just saying shared after.
Yeah,
they-
share, like I'm
after they
thinking
do it.
about sharing it similar to when we get the letters or things, the comments from folks, like where there's no feedback from us, but
Yeah.
it's just,
If
we're
there's
not
no-
discussing, it's
Sure.
just information only.
Yeah, that is something, I mean, that's public record
Yeah,
as well.
okay.
You know, that is something that I can definitely make sure that I show commission.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right.
So for the consideration based upon what Liz language provided, a potential condition number 8 is the primary aesthetic elements shall be maintained as shown on the elevations, but secondary aesthetic elements may be approved administratively by staff to ensure setback compliance.
Looking at you to, that is,
No, I think that's good.
Okay.
Very concisely said.
Yeah.
I said too
It's-
many words. You did
would
great.
would that be okay with everyone versus tabling it until a future meeting?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Well, then, we'll bring it back into the commission for discussion. And then if we have additional questions, we'll follow up. But, with that, I'll bring the meeting back into commission. Oh, well, I mean, I can just for formality, but there's 2 staff and then 1 other person, because I did check a couple times. But if there's anyone else to speak in favor of this, seeing none, hearing none. If there's anyone to speak against, seeing none, hearing none, now I'll bring it back into commission for discussion. Yes. The comments, thoughts? Feel like we kind of do what? Yeah, I was going to say we already discussed it. All right. Well, then, with that, I'll entertain a motion to accept this with the modified conditions.
Motion to approve with modified conditions.
Okay. Motion,
I second him.
motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Okay. So it passes. Tara will follow up, and it seems like you're already in communication on kind of next steps. Thank you so much. You too. And keep building in downtown.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. We're now moving. So is this a public hearing item technically? Okay. Okay, so the next item on our agenda is the Old Conway Design Overlay District Ordinance Update regarding administrative review of fully compliant OCDOD applications discussion. Do we have to take action tonight?
No, so this, for the HTC, it is not an action item. However, I do want to hear any sort of feedback and for me to make any sort of draft.
Okay.
The reason that we put it as a public hearing item is so that we would give the public an opportunity.
Okay.
This is basically like,
Yes.
if they have anything that they want to say.
Because remind me of the timeline of this.
So based upon whether the commissioners have any feedback or recommendations, we may be presenting this to city council as soon as October.
Okay. Is that the preferred timeline?
It would be based upon,
If you were to make a recommendation on the preferred timeline, is that the preferred timeline?
yes.
Okay. Because we are missing 2 commissioners, but I don't know how, and that's where it's items like this not being able to communicate via email are difficult.
When are they taking it to the city council or whatever, or recommendations?
So it would be October 28th, I believe, is the,
And when's our October meeting?
let's see here.
Is that our next meeting?
Yes.
And this is just a recommendation, correct, that we're giving and you're giving to them, or?
Yeah, so I would explain to city council that this has been presented to HDC and whether there were any adjustments as recommended by the commissioners or whether they had, no recommendations, and that also it was a public hearing item, giving the public an opportunity to provide any input.
If we discuss it here, the ones who aren't here, are they able just to email you their thoughts? Because it's just their opinions.
If it was to me, to just me, yes, but not to the entire.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
commissioners can reach out to me
Yeah.
directly with questions, comments, concerns. It's just that it's just not as a group email.
No crosstalk.
So I read over this a couple weeks ago, and I think I only had two things with. One, the big one would be you're taking away the public's input because you're wanting to put this just in the plan, someone in the planning department to approve things that, unless they want to appeal it to us. Is that correct?
Yeah, so anything that is fully compliant, there would not be any public input.
Yeah, so that would be my thing, is you're taking away the public's voice. If someone wants to put something next to them that they're really don't want.
Yeah.
And you're kind of putting it in one person, and the planning's at their discretion what's approved and not approved.
And I would say I feel like for the most part, and this hasn't been the case for us, but I know there's been several instances in my day job where things that could have been administratively approved that had been referred to the planning commission, even though it didn't have to be. So I think that to me puts it a little bit at peace, assuming that there would be that same flexibility. I'm looking at Ann for confirmation as our administrative officer on kind of what that looks like.
The only thing that I want to reiterate is that everything that comes in has to be fully compliant. If there's any deviations from it whatsoever, it will come back before this body. From a financial standpoint, a lot of times these people have bought this stuff and they're paying for interest and that kind of stuff, and it's kind of a rubber stamp for you guys, and we were just kind of trying to back off of that so that they could move on with their projects a little bit faster.
So what does fully compliant mean? Like the projects that we saw tonight that had conditions that we needed to consider?
You
like-
would still see those.
Okay. Is there anything?
This is just in the overlay. It doesn't have anything to do with Robinson.
Yeah.
So, and then I have a PowerPoint too, if need be. But so when we went through and looked at the ordinance, we actually changed a lot of the shoulds to shalls, right? So instead of it wouldn't be that like discretion on behalf of the planner saying, well, the should, Mill does this kind of, it's like, if it doesn't actually do it, then it's going to need to go to HDC. And I looked at 30 projects before coming in here, and I saw that, 18 out of 30 of those probably would still need to go to HDC, and that's just looking at the old Conway overlay. So like 60% of 30 projects.
It's just mostly those that you guys rubber stamp.
Yeah.
That we're trying to keep out of here.
I was just trying to make sure someone's project doesn't come through and whoever's like, well, that's allowed in that zoning, and they just stamp it and,
Well, yeah,
Well, so-
if
so-
it's allowed in that zoning and what they're proposing doesn't deviate from the regulations, then yeah, it would go forward.
So for instance, and you may not like that I'm going to ask this question, but I think it's appropriate to ask it maybe. So Faulkner Street, for instance,
Mhm.
the back and forth that we had on that, would that have come to the HTC or?
You're going to have to ask Tara because she
Tara.
knows all the ins and outs
Okay.
of that. I'm not sure that he was fully compliant.
Okay.
And that's in the Robinson district, so y'all
Yes,
see that
okay,
with
so that's
anyway.
still- Okay.
Yeah,
But something similar,
Yeah.
something similar to that.
Yeah.
if it's an area of contention or if it's on the line between a transition zone and an urban zone, like what's the,
If they didn't have to have any variances, any exceptions, anything to the code, then yes.
so how does the public know about any of that?
They don't.
So it's what we already do in Markham Street.
Yeah.
So in Markham Street, we have the two different application types, the type 1 and the type 2. And the type 1 is staff looks at something to make sure that it conforms with the code. And if it cannot conform or does not, I should say, then they would need to make an HDC application. And then it's always, and then we report to the Historic District Commission.
We now have a little extra thing. I don't know if it's live yet on this or not, but it's called Decision Engine. And through a series of questions, it takes you to the right application and all that kind of stuff. It's a part of the software that we use, that the whole city uses. And so we would have those questions built in so the applicant would know immediately if they have to go to HCC, if it's something that we can review internally.
On one hand, I mean, I appreciate the fact that, I mean, if there's something that is going to be rubber stamped, for lack of a better terminology,
Mhm.
like the avoidance of doing signage, doing mailers, doing the meeting, doing the additional 45 days, I guess it ends up being from the time, or actually maybe it's a little bit more depending on when the notice is, but nonetheless, that additional time is additional interest that someone's paying on a property, is delaying construction. So that's I don't know.
We're just trying to streamline as
Yeah.
much as we possibly can. And we have looked at a lot of other communities, and that's the way they do it
Yeah.
in an overlay district.
So yeah, like for tonight, for example, 346 Ash Street, that would have been something that we would have approved administratively. That was the accessory structure that was converted from the garage to a detached living unit. However, the utility shop would be something that would need to go to HDC.
the fence?
The fence would need, that would go to HDC not only because of the Robinson Historic District and everything in there, but think of the fence over at the Napoltz campus. That does not meet the standards. However, it went before for discretionary review based upon the site dynamics. And
I'm sorry, I was talking about the fence, Patrick slash.
yeah, so
On
that
Ash Street.
we're not touching Robinson. So
Okay, that's
that
fine.
would
Okay,
definitely
yes, yes,
need to still go to HDC.
So is part of the necessity for this the fact that we have the overlay and Robinson in one overseen body? I know that at one time they were separate.
Mhm.
So there's that, and it's to provide more efficiency for the projects where, according to the guidelines, somebody would need to come to HDC if they want to put in a new window on their house, because anything that requires a building permit and changes the exterior needs to go to the Historic District Commission. So this provides people the opportunity to have an administrative review for something such as adding a window.
So how do we ensure, and this is me just talking out loud, because I trust the administrative staff that's in place now, but how do we ensure like the longevity of it, that there would still be that same level of discretion that you've just described tonight, where anything that's going to be close is going to then be referred to HDC?
So for that reason, those shoulds were turned to shalls. So, and then saying things like vinyl is prohibited, right? And then there's a lot of times, such as those average setbacks, the average scale of that was always rather vague. And now it says based upon 5 houses on the same block. So it's going in there and making things very specific so that, almost like numerically specific.
Yeah.
To ensure that, whoever comes next is able to,
And she's only in her 30s, and I'm never letting her leave. Not as long as I draw breath.
You said you had 2
Uh,
things and you only
I
said
don't
one so
remember
far.
what the-
Oh,
Okay.
sorry,
Just wanted to make
I
sure.
interrupted.
No, I just
I
wanted to
didn't
make sure.
remember then.
Okay.
I mean, I think anytime you can streamline things and make it more efficient for the applicant, the better. But I do think you have to take into consideration some of the recent, and obviously if it's in the Robinson, it doesn't apply, but some of the recent conversations we have that people should have the opportunity to, if nothing else, communicate how they're feeling about a project. So then that way the decision makers in whatever body have the ability to hear that feedback. So that's my one concern.
And
Our-
again, we've presented this to Planning Commission. They won't vote on it until their next, the stuff that we're changing in the zoning code. So they won't vote on it until October.
Yeah.
And then it'll go to commission. And both of those are going to be public hearings. No votes will be taken until towards the end of the year. It's coming up fast, but
Yeah.
but still, we've got a couple of months.
My architect hat being on, I really like it being streamlined, and I appreciate that because I'm a rule follower, and so I try to do all the things that we need to, and it would save our clients and our customers, our clients, our projects time, and us some heartburn to be like, all right, you need to start building by July. We have to submit by April. We have to do, we have to back up everything, and it's just one more hurdle that we have to jump through. So I appreciate it from that standpoint, but being considerate of the position that we hold here, not only based on the conversations that we've heard, from Faulkner Street, for example, but again, Robinson, I get it. But neighbors, I think appreciate having a chance to voice their opinions. And I think also it's a way for us to honor that involvement and their investment in their property as well. So I can see
So-
both sides of it, but
Would it be possible, and this might just be unnecessary, but something to think about as part of this process is that even if it was going to be administered or approved administratively, could there be a notice still sent? So not the signage, not the public meeting necessarily, but some form of this project is happening, and you do that same math that you do for all the other projects of these are the addresses that have to be notified in order for that public communication piece to still happen to some extent? Or would that be kind of weird given the process?
We can chat it tomorrow,
Okay.
over the next few days and kind of see if there's a way that we can come up with that. And maybe in the appendix, do a notification to you guys that we've done this,
Mm-hmm.
just
Again, I'm
to
just
let you know.
trying to find that balance of being development friendly,
Mhm.
but also as neighborly as we can be. Because my assumption is that most of anything that we would have would be controversial would be in Robinson. But
Yeah.
even if something conforms, there could be someone be like, well, I didn't know that was happening next to me, and I would have liked to have at least shared how I feel.
I don't
We-
see how you do that without a sign though, because a lot of people aren't
Going to know.
Right.
on a computer, that may be older, they don't get a newspaper unless you
Yeah.
put a sign, you'll miss out.
well, they're mailers. So
Okay.
they would get it
Yeah,
in the mail.
Mailers would do that.
Yeah, I think that's something we can definitely try
We
to
can
figure out.
probably do that.
I want to know, I
And
would
just
like to
see
do a
if we
little
get any
research on that.
feedback on it.
Yeah. On how that works if it's not a public hearing item.
Yeah.
But
Well, and I'm just wondering if it's something similar to like what RDOT does, where they send out
Mm-hmm.
that this is going to be, and it's usually like, I don't know, a week or 2 weeks before it happens. And even if it was still 2 weeks longer that someone had to get approval, it's still a lot better than the current process. And so, and again, maybe there's some level of consideration that still has to be given, because it's like, if your neighbor is replacing their window, may not want a mailer about that. But if your neighbor is adding a fence or something that could more directly impact I don't know.
Like,
Go ahead.
like new construction versus exterior remodel.
Yes.
We get more calls about fences than we do about anything.
Yeah.
That was another thing we actually added, was that the fences would now require a certificate of appropriateness, because right now the standards just say that your fence should conform, but people don't necessarily, there's no permit because you're not getting a building permit, so people put up fences and then don't realize that there's like these specific elements that it needs to have. So that's an area where we've added that even if it's administrative, that someone still needs to get a certificate of appropriateness for the fence.
Other questions, comments?
So I guess you guys communicate with Tara, and she can talk to the other two commissioners that are not here and give us any feedback that you've got, and we'll re-present at the next HDC.
Okay.
And possibly take a vote.
Does that work for y'all? Okay. Tara, anything under the additional business? Do I need to technically close that public hearing? Even though, okay. So with this unique situation, I will close our public hearing for the Old Conway Design Overlay District Ordinance Update regarding administrative review of fully compliant OCDOD application discussion. Do we have any additional business?
Yes, there was in Markham Street, a remodel and renovation was approved at 1014 Front Street. So it was not new construction, but adding windows, awnings, and it's the front of the structure is on Front Street, and then the rear is on Spencer.
Very good. Anything else for the good of the cause? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second motion.
I never know if I have to say